Hello Internet, I am the hero of Julios once again with another One Piece chapter summary. This week's chapter is chapter 1067, Punk Records. The artwork for this chapter is another continuation of the cover story. It is Judge and Caesar duking it out in the emotionless voyage with a connotation under that says, "Who are you?" So I'm gonna guess because Judge worked with Vegapunk and Queen, Judge probably just remembers Caesar as Vegapunk's apprentice, which, as we all know, Caesar really hates being compared to Vegapunk. So the fact that someone as high up in the scientific community, especially the evil scientific community, as Judge, not remembering him and only remembering Vegapunk, is the biggest slap to the face you can give Caesar. Now, I'm not really sure the proficiency level Judge has with hockey, but Caesar definitely has an advantage in a one-on-one fight because I don't care how many clone soldiers Judge puts in front of himself, removing the air from the room is all Caesar has to do against most characters in One Piece. Unless Judge knows to hold his breath, which he wouldn't because he doesn't really remember Caesar in the first place. But enough about that. Let's pick up where we left off in the last chapter, with Vegapunk standing before Luffy, Chopper, Jinbei, and Bonnie, and just saying like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Vegapunk," and Bonnie pointing out that the Vegapunk she knew had a giant head. Jinbei even points out that there were rumors of him having a very large cranium. And you even get a physical representation of where his head should be. Oda even goes as far as to write real head above the cutoff point that was Vegapunk's dome. He points to the apple little thing on his head and he tells us that that is an antenna. You see, Vegapunk ate the brain fruit, a devil fruit that allows him to memorize everything that he has ever seen, his bits of information he has ever obtained. I assume, big tongue to taste things. He's got these ears with which to hear and remember everything he's heard. He probably remembers everything he's touched and smelled and seen with his eyes. Vegapunk has a perfect memory. However, the drawback of this devil fruit is he cannot stop his brain from growing. My brother compared it to that episode of Jimmy Neutron where Sheen just kept getting smarter and smarter. Although Vegapunk found a way around the exploding thing. Apparently, Egghead Island is literally Egghead Island. The big egg part where Punk Records is written across is where Vegapunk stores his real brain. The apple on his head is an antenna that keeps him constantly connected to it. We also get info from Vegapunk that the 6 satellite bodies he have are actually clones. These clones have different parts of Vegapunk within them in order to keep their personalities different, making them have different experiences, different opinions, different ways to handle a situation, and therefore different ways to learn. Once a day, these guys record their thoughts and memories by syncing to Egghead Island, Punk Records, and through that, Vegapunk achieves knowledge 7 times faster than an average human, which has probably accelerated the growth of his brain. My guess is the dome that is Punk Records is not like a 1-to-1 scale of his brain. His brain is probably inside of it, and being as smart as he was, he would have left enough room for the brain to grow within the egg, and by his calculations, I probably have, 60 to 70 years before I have to make a bigger building. He probably thought ahead on this. That's my guess, at least. But his ultimate goal is to find a way to sync up his knowledge to everyone in the world. That way, everyone can wirelessly connect to Punk Records and knowledge can be shared throughout the entire world. Chopper immediately jumps on this idea because the medical knowledge he would receive from this is infinite, and he could become the doctor that can cure any disease. Jinbei, on the other hand, makes a note that what if differing ideals get involved? If a guy who hates fishmen and a fishman link up their brains, what's gonna happen? If a fishman who hates humans is also added to that mix, and then you have someone who is, they love fishmen, how would... I assume that's where Jinbei is coming from, is the original prejudices that he has seen throughout his life. how would you get past that? Vegapunk's response is simply, science wouldn't progress if we spent all day thinking about that. What Vegapunk's perfect world is that people put aside their individual opinions and focus strictly on scientific fact. A noble pursuit. I wouldn't want my brain synced to Wi-Fi, but I do see where he's coming from, and it seems like a great idea. I love the idea of punk records and the ability to have these satellite bodies that work together. However, Bonnie is having none of this. She pulls out the beam sword, punches him to the ground, puts the sword next to his neck, and demands that he fix her father before she, removes Egghead from the island, so to speak. Vegapunk tells her, oh, no, don't use that sword, it's a failure, because it's a very bright light and that attracts bugs, and thousands of bugs just come to the little bug zapper Bonnie's holding, and Bonnie freaks out, passes out immediately on the ground. Now I know what you're thinking. Really? A member of the worst generation is afraid of some bugs? But remember, a fighter as strong as Sanji got freaked out by some bugs back on Jaya, so power level means nothing to common phobias. But as Bonnie's passed out on the ground, Vegapunk tells Luffy he's not all that shocked that Bonnie was trying to kill him, because he took something away from her. Now, he could be talking about her dad, which I would assume he's talking about, but Oda doesn't usually play the vague word game if he is talking about something the audience already knows. So this could be something further connected to Kuma, or further connected to the Sorbet Kingdom as a whole. Whatever the reason, Vegapunk doesn't just hand wave away the fact that he has hurt Bonnie in a way that he needs to make up for. So it's nice to see that Vegapunk doesn't just hand wave away the fact that he hurt Bonnie. He wants to do something about that, but first he has a couple questions for Luffy. The main one being, you were at Wano during the big fight that happened there. Is it true that there were 2 dragons? To which Luffy says, yeah, there were 2 dragons. And he goes, okay, one of those was my failed devil fruit, the one that I made based on Kaido. And Luffy's like, yeah, it was really cool. Momo could do everything Kaido could do. He could breathe fire, he could chomp down on things, he could make the flame clouds. He was, basically the same dragon. And Vegapunk goes, okay, what color was the dragon? And Luffy goes, pink. Vegapunk immediately slams his head into the ground and wails in sadness. Oh, another failure. Absolute failure. I replicated a godlike draconic form, breathing fire that can break down the greatest of walls, a mouth that can chomp mountains, but it's pink instead of blue. I'm a failure. I know a guy like this, so Vegapunk's reaction does not actually shock me all that much. Perfectionists are, as the name implies, perfectionists. Even the slightest thing wrong is considered an absolute failure to them. Personally, this kind of throws out my theory of what was wrong about the devil fruit. Vegapunk considered it a failure, so I thought what was wrong with it was Momo can't go into his hybrid form. And to be fair, we never actually saw him do that. We saw his dragon form, we saw his human form, we saw his dragon form as an adult, we saw his human form as an adult. Momo never went into a hybrid form. Now, as we saw from Kaku, once you have eaten your devil fruit, it is difficult to learn how to master your transformations, which, by the way, will make the Kaku-Zoro rematch really cool, because Kaku's had 2 years to practice turning into a giraffe. But Momonosuke's only had his devil fruit for, let's hazard and say maybe 3 months, maybe 2. So he might have he barely understood turning into a dragon in the first place. So give it time. Apparently he does have a hybrid form, because the only thing that made this an utter failure was the fact that he turned pink instead of azure. Yeah, I know it's kind of a letdown to find out that was why it was a failure, but the good news is Momo is just as powerful as Kaido, so Vegapunk is just being kind of whiny. The next thing that he tells Luffy and Jinbei is that the giant robot behind them is not an invention of his. We get to cut up to the Straw Hats talking to Shaka as they are listening in on this conversation with Vegapunk. Sanji and Usopp and Nami are commenting on how Bonnie's with them and how she's a member of the worst generation. Sanji's a little shocked because they had a little girl, like a little small child with them, and now there's a full-grown woman with Luffy. But Shaka explains to them that this giant robot took over, or not took over, but attacked Mary Joie about 200 years ago. And when it, was defeated, it wasn't even defeated, it just ran out of power. That's the scary part, is if this thing got up and running, I don't even know if the modern world of One Piece could actually take it on. However, it's not going to be up and running anytime soon, because Vegapunk has been able to reverse engineer everything about it except one thing: the power source. You can't just make it run. The battery doesn't work, or I can't replicate the power source to enough gigajolts needed to power it. I don't know technology. I just have a camera. I can tell you how a camera works, but I can't tell you how a giant robot works. Vegapunk can't power it, but maybe he'll be able to figure it out with Frankie's help. Little extra scientific knowledge there, especially since Frankie knows what to do with big piles of junk. It is after this bit of exposition that Vegapunk finally asks Straw Hat Luffy, son of Dragon, "Will you help me get off Egghead Island?" This is a big request, especially since Vegapunk is directly tied to Egghead. Even if Cypher Pole Zero comes to assassinate him, even if he gets away, wouldn't attacking his brain just bring him down? They're going to have to find a way to move the entire island. My guess is the way to move the entire island is to find a way to get the power source back into that giant and use it to push the island up into the sky. Maybe even put it on the moon. This might be, oh my gosh, what if this is how Eneru comes back? Eneru comes back down with his moon men, and they're gonna attack and they're gonna fight, and Luffy sees them and goes, oh, that's an infinite source of power, and he just grabs Eneru. Goes Gear 5th, turns into a giant, grabs Eneru, stuffs him in a battery, puts the battery in the robot. That's the missing piece, is the Rumble fruit and Eneru as a power source. Because, actually, if Eneru was down on the Blue Sea, that actually would be a way to get an infinite power source, because he was able to charge his Arc Maxim with his Devil Fruit. The more I say it out loud, the more viable this theory is, aside from the fact that he is currently on the moon. But on the note of him trying to get off Egghead, there are some people trying to get on Egghead. They have already defeated the robot sea beasts that have defended the island, as Rob Lucci and Cypher Pole Zero are heading towards them, requesting a dock to, come off the island, return the Seraphim, and then kill Vegapunk and leave. Shaka tells Lilith they want the Straw Hat crew. Lilith responds with, well, Rob Lucci's an assassin, right? So why not just hand over the Straw Hat crew? We'll make a trade. And Shaka says he's not going to go for that. They are Cypher Pole Zero. So tell them to leave the Seraphim and go away, because they are not coming onto this island. They will hate that because they are Cypher Pole Zero. So prepare for battle. The Straw Hat crew takes this about as well as you think. Usopp's panicking, he wants his legs back so that he can run away. Nami's worried because Rob Lucci almost killed them last time. Sanji promises Robin that he'll protect her. Frankie's, standing there in awe. And Robin just sits there like this. So, I don't know if she's shocked, worried, ready to punch something. Spandam's a member of CP0, so it's entirely possible for a Robin re-slapping of Spandam. That would be fun. But aside from that, Cypher Pole Zero's coming. We already knew that, and they've got their masks on. So they are the masked agents of Cypher Pole Zero, which are the most powerful members. However, are they the most powerful members because the other ones died, or are they the actual most powerful members, and Cypher Pole Zero just has a lot more members than we think they do? I'm not exactly sure how the hierarchy works there, but they do have masks, so Rob Lucci, Luffy rematch coming. I don't know, with Gear 5th, I feel like unless it's a Yonko, an Admiral, or Eam himself or herself, we don't know what Eam looks like yet. I highly doubt Rob Lucci is that big of a threat, but give it time. It's been 2 years. Aside from that, there is only one other thing happening. Way over in the Kamabaka Queendom, not Eam, Eva, Dragon, and Koala, Lindbergh's there, and they're working on repairs for Kuma. However, just randomly, all of a sudden, Bartholomew Kuma, just sitting there as a big, dull robot, just breaks his stuff and just starts booking it. And as he's running, everyone's calling out to him. Koala's asking why is he running. Eva tells him, hey, the Revolutionary Army's just getting started. Where you going? Dragon tells him, Kuma, just tell us what you want. Where are you going? He doesn't have his free will anymore. So what is bringing Kuma away? My guess? Either A, somehow he knows his daughter's in trouble and he's about to paw fruit his way to Egghead. Or 2, Vegapunk is wirelessly connected to all pacifistas and he's calling all of them to his aid. This might be his failsafe plan of, oh, you're going to try and kill me? Here's an army that you have allowed me to build. You don't think I didn't put a kill switch in there? Welcome to Vegapunk's new world. Population, everyone who hooked up to the Wi-Fi. But we'll have to wait for a couple weeks because no new chapter next week. So Thanksgiving is this Thursday. Aside from that, there's really nothing else to talk about. I'll have some kind of video for next week for One Piece. Maybe some theories about Vegapunk, or let me know in the comments. Do you guys want me to talk about the One Piece card game again? There's so many other channels talking about it already. I'm going to definitely be opening boxes on the channel like I do for the Digimon card game. But as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.